I paid for a family reunion and found myself utterly alone. At 32, as a successful software engineer, I've fallen into the role of our family's unofficial event planner and financier. My older sister, Rebecca, is 35 and a freelance graphic designer. Her income is as unpredictable as her creative moods. My younger brother, Daniel, is 27, a passionate musician who teaches guitar and lives a bohemian lifestyle, always just scraping by. My parents, now in their late 60s, are comfortably retired but fiercely mindful of their savings, having worked hard their entire lives to secure a peaceful retirement. The idea took root 6 months ago. My mother, during one of our weekly video calls, had sighed wistfully, her voice tinged with a soft melancholy. "I was looking through the old photo albums," she'd said. "The ones from when you kids were little and we'd all spend a week at the lake house every summer. I miss that, with Daniel's band getting some local recognition and Rebecca talking about maybe settling down with her boyfriend Alex. It feels like we're all drifting into our own orbits. I'd give anything to have all my children under one roof for a whole week again." Her words struck a chord deep within me. I remembered those lake house vacations, the smell of pine needles and barbecue, the feel of the rough wooden dock under my feet, the sound of our laughter echoing across the water. I wanted to give that back to her, to all of us. That evening, fueled by nostalgia and a generous glass of wine, I began to research. I found it after weeks of searching. A stunning modern villa on the coast of Maine. It was perched on a cliffside with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the Atlantic Ocean. It had 6 bedrooms, a sprawling deck with fire pit, a gourmet kitchen, and even a private path leading down to a secluded cove. It was perfect, and it was expensive. The cost for a week in peak summer was a staggering $6,800. I took a deep breath. I could manage it. I wanted to manage it. The thought of seeing my mother's face, of all of us reconnecting, was worth the financial sting. I presented the idea in our family group chat, complete with pictures of the villa. The response was immediate and euphoric. Rebecca sent a string of heart-eye emojis, saying she and Alex were absolutely in. Daniel wrote in all caps about how much he needed the ocean air and family time. My dad started reminiscing about teaching us to fish. My mom was practically speechless with joy. Seeing their excitement, I made my move. I typed out my offer carefully. "I know this is a big financial ask for everyone," I wrote. "So I want to make this as easy as possible. I'll cover the bulk of the villa rental. I'll pay $5,500 of the $6,800. The remaining $1,300 we can split 4 ways. Mom and Dad, Rebecca and Alex, Daniel and myself. That comes out to $325 per person or per couple." The gratitude that flooded the chat was overwhelming. Rebecca said it was the most generous thing anyone had ever done for her. Daniel sent a voice message, his voice thick with emotion, saying he couldn't remember the last time he'd been able to afford a proper vacation. My parents called me immediately, my mother tearfully thanking me for making this dream a reality. I felt a warm, expansive happiness. I was the one who could make this happen for my family. I charged the full $6,800 to my credit card the next day, securing the booking, with the understanding that everyone would pay me their $325 before we traveled. The planning commenced. I became the architect of our family's happiness. I researched the best lobster shacks, mapped out scenic coastal drives, found a local company that rented kayaks, and created a shared document with meal ideas and activity suggestions. Everyone contributed enthusiastically. Rebecca pinned ideas for sunset photography spots. Daniel found a listing for a live music pub in the nearest town. My dad researched tide pools. For months, the group chat was a buzzing hive of shared anticipation. About 2 months before the trip, I gently broached the subject of the money. Hey, everyone. Just a friendly reminder about the $325 contributions when you get a chance. I wrote, trying to pay down that credit card bill. Everyone responded with assurances and thanks. But as the weeks ticked down, the payments didn't materialize. A month before departure, I asked again, more directly. Rebecca replied that cash flow was tight after she'd had to upgrade her computer for a big project, and asked if she and Alex could pay me back after the trip. Daniel said a few of his guitar students had canceled recently, and he'd need to pay me in installments. My parents said they could cover it, but wondered if they could wait until after the vacation, as they just paid their annual insurance premium. A knot of frustration tightened in my stomach, but I swallowed it. I didn't want to be the money-obsessed killjoy. That's fine. I typed, my fingers feeling heavy. We can sort out afterward. Then, about 10 days before we were set to leave, the first cracks appeared in my carefully constructed plan. I had sent a detailed itinerary, a flexible guide I thought with suggested activities for each day, restaurant options, and a grocery list of the meals we'd cook together as a family. The real blow came when I asked everyone to confirm their travel details, so we could coordinate arrivals. Rebecca announced that she and Alex had decided to drive up a day early to break up the journey and explore some lighthouses along the way. Daniel, it turned out, had booked a flight that arrived 2 days before everyone else because he had a friend in Portland he wanted to visit. My parents, ever frugal, had found a flight that was $150 cheaper, but it landed at a different airport an hour away from the one Rebecca, Alex, and I were using. I stared at my phone, the words blurring. I felt a cold disbelief. I'm confused. I typed, my fingers trembling. I thought the point was that we were doing this together. We were going to travel up together, arrive together, start this family week as a family. This feels like individual trips that just happen to converge at the same rental property. The response was defensive and dismissive. Rebecca said I was being rigid, and that it didn't matter when we arrived as long as we were all there for the majority of the week. Daniel accused me of micromanaging his social life. My parents said they were just being financially sensible and didn't see the problem. I tried to explain the sinking feeling in my chest, the sense that the shared experience I had invested so heavily in, both emotionally and financially, was already crumbling before it began. I mentioned the over $5,000 I was contributing specifically to create this collective memory. Rebecca's reply was sharp. No one is disputing your generosity, but you can't buy control over our vacation time. The words felt like a slap. The next day, trying to salvage something, I sent another message. Can we at least all commit to being at the villa by dinner time on the first night? I'll make a big pasta dinner for everyone. Let's just start the week off together, as planned. The silence that followed was deafening. It was hours before Rebecca replied. Sorry, Alex and I already made reservations at this highly rated seafood place in Bar Harbor for that night. It was the only reservation we could get. We'll see you guys afterward for drinks. Daniel wrote that he'd try to make it back from Portland in time, but couldn't promise anything. My parents said their flight didn't land until 8 p.m., so they'd be too tired for a late dinner. The final thread of my hope snapped. I was planning and paying for a party, to which I was the only one who intended to show up on time. The night before my scheduled flight, I woke up to a flurry of messages. Rebecca and Alex had already begun their road trip. Daniel was at the airport, about to board his early flight. My parents had decided to leave that evening instead of the next morning to avoid traffic. They were all starting our family vacation without me. I went to work in a daze. I received a photo from Rebecca of her and Alex grinning in front of a picturesque lighthouse. Daniel sent a selfie with his friend in a Portland brew pub. My parents texted a picture of their rental car, saying they were excited to get to the villa and unpack. I was due to fly out the next afternoon, But the thought of arriving at that beautiful, expensive villa a day late to the fractured gatherings of my family filled me with a profound sense of isolation. I made a decision. I texted the group, "Not feeling well. Think I caught a bug. Don't think I should travel. You all have a great time." The concerned calls came instantly. I repeated the lie to each of them, my voice steady but my heart aching. For 2 days, I received cheerful updates and photos of their adventures, hiking, eating lobster, exploring towns. They were having a wonderful time in the vacation home I had provided. On the evening that was supposed to be our first full day together, my mom called. "We're saving you some clam chowder, sweetheart. Any chance you're feeling well enough to fly out tomorrow? We miss you." That was the moment the dam broke. I couldn't sustain the lie. I sent a long, honest message to the group chat, explaining that I wasn't sick. I was heartbroken. I detailed how their separate plans and their decision to start without me had made me feel like an afterthought, a banker and a planner, but not a participant. The backlash was swift and brutal. Rebecca called, furious. "You lied to us. We've been worried sick. How could you be so manipulative?" Daniel texted, "So you're punishing us because we didn't follow your script? That's messed up." My dad's voice was cold with disappointment on the phone. "I cannot believe you would be so deceitful and spoil this for everyone over a scheduling issue." Then my mother called back, and her words cut the deepest. "We were all so grateful for your gift. But a gift with strings attached isn't a gift at all. It's a transaction, and you can't control how people experience a gift." That was it, the final straw. My $5,500 contribution, my months of planning, my desire for family togetherness, all reduced to a transactional attempt at control. In that moment, the money meant nothing. The principle meant everything. I logged into the vacation rental website, and I canceled the reservation. It was well within the punitive cancellation period. I lost the entire $6,800. Every single penny. I didn't care. If they didn't want a family trip I had envisioned and funded, then they wouldn't have a trip at all. I turned off my phone and spent a quiet, miserable day alone, watching old movies and trying not to think about the ocean views I would never see. When I turned my phone back on the next day, it was to a deluge of fury and panic. They had been locked out of the villa. The property manager had explained the cancellation. Rebecca and Alex had to cut their trip short and drive home. Daniel had to shamefully ask his friend for a place to stay while he found a last-minute, exorbitantly priced flight home. My parents, humiliated and stressed, had to find a hotel for the remainder of their planned stay, blowing their carefully managed budget. The messages were venomous. Rebecca called me a selfish, vindictive monster who had ruined her vacation. Daniel said I had deeply betrayed him. My father said he was ashamed of me. And through all their anger about their inconvenience and their lost money, not a single person acknowledged the $5,500 I had just set on fire. Not one person seemed to grasp that their actions had led us here. In the week that followed, the dust began to settle into a thick, painful layer of resentment and reflection. My mother was the first to break the icy silence. She called, her voice weary. After the shock wore off, she said, "I started thinking about what you said, and I saw Rebecca posting photos online, calling it their amazing coastal getaway with Alex. It hit me then. We all got caught up in what we could do individually, and we forgot this was supposed to be a family reunion. We took your contribution for granted." My conversation with my father was harder. He was still angry about the unexpected hotel bill, a significant financial blow for them. But as I explained, not defensively but sadly, how it felt to watch everyone scatter to their own pursuits from the very start, his anger softened into a grim understanding. "I suppose we were all thinking of it as a free vacation," he admitted. I didn't stop to think that you were paying for a specific kind of experience. Daniel, after some time, sent a long, apologetic email. He said he'd been selfish and hadn't considered the weight of my investment, both financial and emotional. He admitted he'd seen the trip as a free place to stay while he visited his friend. He enclosed a check for $325, which moved me to tears. Rebecca, however, remained a wall of righteous anger. Our phone call was a disaster. You expect everyone to live on your schedule just because you have more money, she shouted. Alex and I work hard, and we wanted some couple time on our vacation. Was that a crime? I tried to explain that wanting couple time was fine, but that fundamentally altering the travel plan for a trip I was funding, without discussion, was the issue. She couldn't or wouldn't see the distinction. She has not spoken to me since. The financial loss is mine to bear. My parents and Daniel have sent their contributions, a gesture of apology that I accepted with a heavy heart. Rebecca has refused, stating that since I blew up the vacation, I am responsible for the cost. Gloria's observation from the original story rings true for me as well. I essentially paid over $5,000 to teach my family and myself a brutal lesson about communication, expectations, and the hidden cost of generosity. My mother has tentatively suggested a weekend gathering at their house later this year. She promised we would all discuss expectations beforehand. I agreed, but the thought fills me with anxiety. The innocence of being the family planner is gone. I now understand that my financial stability created an invisible dynamic, one where my generosity was seen as an unlimited resource, and my vision for togetherness was viewed as control. The villa in Maine is gone, the money is lost, but the lesson is etched permanently on my heart. Sometimes, the price of bringing your family together is finding yourself completely alone.